where we have gotten as human civilization is thanks to religion. And I think you'd have to be ignorant and maybe to the point of willfully ignorant to look around and say, oh no, we got here just because of happenstance. And I don't mean like nature and evolution and whatever you believe on that. I mean culture as we know it. I cannot look at a cathedral. I cannot look at New York City. I can't look at ports in LA and London and go like, well, that just kind of fell into place. Money connects to basically everything because money is a tradable form of time. And if you can show me something that time doesn't touch, I guess I'll vanish into smoke because I'll have learned something that seems impossible to have learned. Time is like the base layer of existence. I don't know that Bitcoin is the answer. I do know that it's the best answer that we have right now, but I don't know that it's the only answer, and I don't know that something else better won't come along.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Sean. Welcome to G'day Bitcoin. Today, we're going to dive into a very interesting conversation with my mate, Del. Del, how are you today?
Dandy, I'm good.
Lovely to hear. Hey, sorry about last week. It was meant to happen 7 days ago, and I was, unfortunately, truly, I was just totally exhausted. So I appreciate you being willing to reschedule for today.
Yeah, and it's not a problem. I'm just chilling. So if you want to talk for 15 minutes and you go, I'm sick of this guy, and you cut it off for 2 hours, I'm good for it, whatever.
Yeah, I've got about an hour, and then we need to get the recording processed as well. I reckon, we're talking 2 minutes ago before we hit record, and you brought up something that I found very interesting, and it's something that I've been paying more and more attention to, and that's the topic of Bitcoin and religion. Now, This morning, I was talking to Brian Demint, the author of Bitcoin Evangelism and Parallel, and he's like, there's 3 things that you should never talk about. Number 1 is money. Number 2 is politics. 3 is religion. We smashed all 3, and it's such a great conversation. I'd like to repeat that here, but from a different angle. So, Del, you're saying that you grew up Protestant, and now you and your partner, or you and your wife, are looking at Catholicism.
Yeah.
I guess for the uninitiated, first off, like, how's religion have anything to do with Bitcoin? Why are we bringing this into this conversation?
Okay, so let's see. I'm going to probably refer to this. Once I say it, I can refer to it. But if I didn't say this, I wouldn't be able to. So let me start with this. A while ago, I don't know when it was, my wife and I were talking about, I don't know how we got here, but we came up with this idea, if you want to call it. I was about to say theory. It's not really a theory. It's just an idea. We were talking, and we drew this thing out. And the picture that we drew out was a line that went across the page. It was just a regular 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. And I had a line that went from one side all the way to the other. And we were talking about that line being the longest timeline. And that's where all the good things happen. That isn't to say that nothing bad happens. Things are good. There's entropy. Things are going to fall apart. Things are going to break. But on the best timeline, the way that I see it is that when something goes awry, then people with honesty and integrity will say, hey, something's amiss here. Something's wrong. Let's fix it. And they'll have the knowledge to fix that thing. The worst timeline imaginable is, well, it dies off real quick. You can imagine what that is, but you could imagine it being torture and pain and misery until human existence as we know it ceases to be, or you could just imagine nuclear annihilation, whatever. It ends real fast. And as far as I can tell, we're somewhere between those. We're clearly not on the best possible timeline, and we're clearly not on the worst possible timeline because I'm alive, I'm here, I'm talking to you. We're not all dead and suffering in an unimaginably horrific way on a constant basis. But we're also obviously not on the best timeline because there's still people making a lot of really poor decisions. And I mean, objectively so. Not like, oh, I don't agree with this politician, or I don't agree with that one because of he's. I'm saying, like, you can go outside and you can see litter on the ground. Trash should not be on the ground. People should not be doing that, and people do. So they make poor decisions. You hear about stories of people being taken advantage of, cheating, lying, stealing, murder, all kinds of things that I think most people could agree that's really not good when a child is, something bad happens to the child, abandoned or something. And so there's a lot of decisions that lead to that best timeline, and there's a lot of decisions that lead to the best timeline, or the worst one. How this ties into Bitcoin and how it has how anything to do with religion is, I think that there are certain patterns of behavior that are learned over millennia. And it's not something that you or I can just do on your own. And some people go, oh, yeah, I can. I have the knowledge. I have the expertise. I have it all in this Nietzschean Ubermensch type mentality. I've got it within me. Okay. You're ignorant and you're not giving due course to the things around you that are giving you innumerable facts about how to be any time you just step outside of your house. No person dropped into the woods as an infant, but very few people are going to survive that situation. It'd be like pure dumb luck for an infant surviving in the woods. And for the one that does, the idea that he's going to find his own perfect sense of morality and his ethical compass, and it be honed and perfectly true in alignment so that he can build civilization on his own, is just absurd. So where we have gotten as human civilization is thanks to religion. And I think you'd have to be ignorant and maybe to the point of willfully ignorant to look around and say, oh no, we got here just because of happenstance. And I don't mean like nature and evolution and whatever you believe on that. I mean culture as we know it. I cannot look at a cathedral. I cannot look at New York City. I can't look at ports in LA and London and go like, well, that just kind of fell into place. No, give me a break. Or music and Bach and Mozart and so many incredible works of art, Tolkien, and on and on and on. And those things to me point to the best possible timeline. And you could go, well, what about this individual? Oh, did you know that Nazism wouldn't exist if it weren't for Martin Luther and his anti-Semitism? It's like, oh, okay, yeah, but that's throwing out the baby with the bathwater. You can't say that all of Christianity is a negative because one person had some really, I mean, to be honest, not good things to say about Jews. Like Martin Luther's stuff on the Jews are atrocious in the extreme, no joke. But to say that all of Protestantism is then a horrible blight on humanity is absurd, and it's just insanity. And the same is true of Catholicism. Yes, there's been some real dark spots with Catholicism, but that doesn't mean that wholesale Catholicism is a negative thing. So to bring this back around to Bitcoin, the same is true with money. There are certain things that are good with money. And as we can see with fiat, there's some ways of money that are really, really bad. And you can see what's going on in so many parts of the world where things like Argentina, oh, Javier Milei, he's going to, oh my goodness, he's turning things around. Then he does this nonsense with whatever, the Libra token. I mean,
Yeah.
greed is a very real problem. And it sits in the heart of every individual. And if you think that you're just going to overcome that because you have some sort of incredible guiding light within you that you just like, that's absurd. It's absurd. You have to look at the you have to appreciate the giants whose shoulders you're standing upon.
Yeah. So, like on this, would you be able to describe what is the difference between Protestant and Catholic or Catholicism?
Yeah, absolutely. So the main difference is that with Catholicism, there are some offshoots. Like you could make the argument that Eastern Orthodoxy is part of the Catholic Church. Catholic just means universal. When people think of Catholic, they usually think of the Roman Catholic Church with the Pope as the head of the church, the bishops, the cardinals, etc. And then you've got different masses around the world. And there are differences even within that. I think if you were to count all the different churches that call themselves Catholic, you'd get to about 20, 24, something like that. But when you count Protestant churches, which happened because of the Reformation, not that that's what Martin Luther wanted, that he did not want that. He saw problems. So let's start there. Let's go to the year roughly 1500. Indulgences were being sold, which indulgences are still a part of the Catholic Church, but they are not the way that they were done back then. And Martin Luther saw a problem. He's like, hey, wait a minute. These priests are going around and selling for money indulgences, basically to help your deceased relatives work their way through purgatory. They were saying, hey, your dead grandpa is in purgatory for whatever million years. If you buy this indulgence, give me 3 gold pieces or whatever, you can reduce that by 500,000 years and he'll be in heaven that much sooner. Wow, that seems like a great deal. And so the rich were taking advantage of this and the poor were like, well, what the heck? We're getting screwed here. We can't help our relatives. And Martin Luther said, wait a minute, this is a problem. This is a problem. So he posted his 95 Theses on a church, or he pasted it. It's unclear exactly how he went about it. But the thing is that he wanted reform in the church. He was not looking to start a whole new church, which ended up being Lutherans. And then that spread into Protestantism, which we have today, which is thousands, literally thousands of different denominations. You've got Anglicans, you've got the Protestants, you've got the Calvins. It goes on and on and on. And the core difference between the two churches, I would say, is that Protestants believe that you really only need 2 things to be saved. You need it's sola fide and sola scriptorum. Sola fide means by faith alone. So there is no doing works. There is no helping your neighbor. It's nothing that you can do. It is by God's grace alone, by him, this divine being, the creator of the universe, whether you believe this or not. This is what Christianity teaches. Came down as a man into the God-man Jesus, fully man, fully God, and showed us how to be. And as long as you believe that, you're good. And to believe that, you just need to read the scripture. So as long as you have faith alone and you read the scripture, that's it. It doesn't really matter if you call yourself a Bob the Christian denomination. That's irrelevant. You can have a church of 5, you can have a church of 100,000. It doesn't matter. Whereas the Catholic Church goes, whoa, 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 whoa. You need more than just scripture, because there was no canon of the Bible for the first 300 odd years after Jesus died. There was no official scripture. It was tradition that was holding the church up. It was people meeting in church homes and people meeting out in fields and gathering in 2s and 3s and maybe a dozen here and there. Like it was tradition that was holding the church together. So you need tradition, the Catholic Church says. And to uphold that tradition, you need people to uphold it. You need a pope. And the Catholic Church says, and I am of the opinion, that when Jesus gave the keys of the kingdom of heaven, he says that to Peter on this rock. He says, I will build my kingdom of heaven on this rock, saying that to Simon Peter. And Protestants will say, well, that's not really what he means by that. That he wasn't the Pope then. It was kind of just symbolic more than anything. And Catholics go, no. That was the guy. That was the head of the church once Jesus left, ascended into heaven. And from Peter, we have a succession of popes all the way down to the current pope that's now Pope Francis. And people say, well, there wasn't actually a pope from this time to this time. And there's been times of this pope, and there was different times where this pope claimed that and this pope claimed that. But that's the beauty of the Catholic Church, is that it's all within the church and it's all within the magisterium. And the magisterium are the cardinals, and they come together and they have these discussions and they go, okay, what do you think about this? And they've been having these discussions for more than 2,000 years at this point. This has been an ongoing, I mean, the volumes in the text. And I'm currently listening to a book about Western civilization owes itself in no small manner to the monks of the Catholic Church. The books that they have transcribed and carried from time, like the first mechanical clocks were invented by monks. They completely have changed entire landscapes. Swamps that were uninhabitable are now some of the most pristine, gorgeous farmlands in sections of Europe. So there is so much that the Catholic Church has done. But to bring it back around to your question, it has to do with Protestants basically saying that you don't need the structure of the church. You can do it on your own just fine. It's about your personal walk with Jesus. And the Roman Catholics say, no. There's more to it than that. And there's a lot more nuance than that. But I would say that's at the crux of it.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. So like on the Protestants, you said there's the 2 things, the scriptures and to have faith. Mm-hmm. So like with there only being 2 things, does that mean like they don't need to do good? They don't need to show up as what the average person would label as genuine?
So that gets into really, I was going to say dicey. It's not dicey. So what Protestants would say, as far as I can tell, and I grew up Protestant, and this is stuff that I didn't learn, and my whole questioning about Catholicism came from a story idea of a Western that I was going to write. But anyhow, yeah, I still plan to. It's nothing to do with Bitcoin or anything. It's just a Western story, and I was going to have a nun in it. And then I was like, well, I needed some bad guys, and so I was like, well, the KKK, because I wanted to write it set in the 20s, KKK, and then I come to find out the KKK hates Catholics. Didn't know that. Um, what Protestants would say is that once you actively believe in Jesus and you are following the path of Christ, that faith is not a one-time thing. They would say that faith is a verb. It is a constant thing that you are doing. So when you have that temptation, you feel that road rage coming on you. I'm going to swear at this guy. You feel the temptation to sin, miss the mark. That it's faith because you have given your life to Jesus. That faith in Jesus, and now you're giving yourself over to Jesus and walking this path, walking that longest timeline, if you will, that I talked about 10 minutes ago, is what stops you from doing that. And Catholics, as far as I can tell, and I'm still pretty new into looking at this, would go, whoa, it's not quite that simple. You can't just gloss over and go, oh, because you've given your life to Jesus, you're set. Because when I hear by faith alone, it sounds like, if you don't have this box that you shove everything into called faith, it sounds like to me that I can go, okay, I give my life to Jesus and now I can do whatever I want. Well, I said I have faith, so I'm set now. Now I can go and live my life of complete near-do wellness and miscreants and be a absolute scourge on humanity. As long as I said I had faith at one point, I'm set. It's like buying a ticket and then I can go and do whatever I want. And Protestants would say, no, no, no. The very act of buying that ticket is what stops you from doing all those things. Now that you're in the theme park of not doing bad things, you just won't do bad things. And so I was thinking about this in a different context. I was thinking about it in my day job. I was thinking about, okay, do I go to work and do the things that are expected of me because I was given the job or because I want to keep the job? And the conclusion that I came to is that it's both at the same time.
Yeah.
I would not want to do those things to keep the job if I hadn't been given the job. But to say that I only go and do those things because I was given the job, you can make that argument. It's like, well, you would never even want to do those things. But now that I did get that job, I do want to do those things. And somebody'd say, well, that's faith. It's like, no, 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 that's not just faith. You can't just shove all that into the faith box as far as I'm concerned. And so I do believe that if you give your life over to Jesus at one point in time, you give yourself over to walking in the path of Christ, and then you screw up majorly and you go completely off the path and you just are just an absolute monster, you got to make up for that. And somebody'd say, well, that would be faith again. I'd say, no, it's not. You're doing some works. Whether you want to call it works or not, whether or not you want to put that label on it, I guess we're getting into the nuances of language. But as far as I can tell, you're doing something, and I'm going to call those works. I'm going to call that doing good works for the people that you wronged. So if you don't want to call it that, okay, we're getting to semantics here, but that's what I'm calling it.
Yeah. So, like from what I'm hearing, and like truth be told, I've no idea. I'm very spiritual, but not religious in the slightest. And saying that, a really good friend sent me the Holy Bible, and I've read most of it before. I've also read pretty much all of the Quran as well. And I think in any religious text out there, the reason why they're handed over and they survive generation after generation is that because they contain nuggets of truth. But in saying that, like I'm approaching this from having absolutely no idea, just for the audience, and I find it pretty interesting. So it sounds like the Protestants, they don't really care so much about the 10 Commandments, but where the Catholics or Catholicism would sort of follow that a little bit more.
No, I would say they both care very much about the 10 Commandments. Yeah, the 10 Commandments are just kind of it's not necessarily rules for life, but it's a guideline. It's kind of a thing that you might have in your house or in your workplace to remind people. It's kind of like I don't know. I don't mean to demean it in any way, but sort of a cheat sheet. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. I shouldn't kill people. Like I don't know if you really need that on your wall. as a reminder. But it's kind of like here's the basics. Just if you can do all of these things correctly, then you'll be on a pretty good trajectory.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think the Ten Commandments are a good blueprint for everyone's life. They're not saying anything, I think, that any good person of any denomination would disagree with. Don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal. Be the best you can. So with Catholicism, please correct me, I'm probably way off bat here, but like, are you only reaching heaven or like that realization of God by going through the church? Like, you can't go directly to Jesus or directly to God. They want you to go into that system that's been built up.
Yeah, that's correct. That I think that's exactly accurate. There are requirements of the Catholic Church, like going to Mass on Sunday. Mass is held every day of the week at some church. I mean, there's tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of churches around the world, and there's a Mass somewhere at basically every hour of the day in the whole of the world. And you can go Monday through Friday if you want. You've got the time. But the only one that's required of Catholics, not that everyone does this, because that's there's all kinds of requirements that exist in the world, and people don't do them all the time. But the requirement to be a Catholic is that you go on Sunday. And part of that is that I'd say the main thing is that you are partaking of the Eucharist, which is when the priest anoints, or this is a little bit above my pay grade because I don't know all of it just yet, but through a process. So there's a part in the Last Supper when Jesus says, "This wine and this bread is my body." And the way that you can read that is, again, getting to the nuance of Catholicism versus Protestantism. Protestants would say that it's symbolic. Jesus did not literally mean that was his blood, his body and blood. Whereas Catholics would say, well, it depends on which Catholic you ask, but quite a few, like a third roughly, would say, no, that's literally what it is. This is what priests would say. This is what the Pope would say. This is what the cardinals would say, that is literally the flesh and blood of Christ. And you go like, well, we can do science experiments and we can look at it under a microscope. It's clearly not, you're not performing a cannibalistic act. Well, I don't know why people struggle with this if they don't struggle with the resurrection of Christ or the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit being completely unique beings while at the same time being the same being. Like, if you can wrap your head around that, if you can, I try to, then you shouldn't have any trouble with Jesus being literally bread and wine. But partaking of the Eucharist at Mass is a major part of being a Catholic, because that was what Jesus commanded of his followers at the Last Supper. And if you're not doing that, then that's seen as a miss. But I would say the main goal in being a Catholic is to be as close to Christ-like as possible. And because he commanded certain things, and through the tradition of the church spanning back literally hundreds of years, and at this point over 2,000 years, they have come to the conclusion that these things mean this, and that's why we do it this way.
If you've still got your Bitcoin on an exchange, or you're looking to take your Bitcoin security to the next level, I've partnered with the Bitcoin Way. They offer live help for setting up cold storage, running your own node, keeping your Bitcoin private, planning for the future, using multi-sig, and so much more. They never touch your keys. They will not touch your coins. Instead, they'll show you how to buy and keep them safe. If you want to make your Bitcoin setup safer, you can book a free 30-minute call and have a chat with them. Safe Dina Moose, the author of the Bitcoin Standard, Natalie Brunel, Preston Pish, and so many more recommend the professional IT cybersecurity team. Couple of outstanding things here. You can see they've been featured in Forbes, Bitcoin Magazine, Bitcoin Prague, Zero Hedge, Simply Bitcoin, the Bitcoin Safe Dean, the Bitcoin Standard podcast with Safe Dina Moose, Bitcoin News, obviously G'day Bitcoin for a long time. They're the world experts in helping people become self-sovereign. It's not just about protecting your Bitcoin stash. Yes, they will help you do that in a very easy to understand step-by-step process. But from there, they can help you secure your data. They are your personal cybersecurity IT experts. And then step number 3 is getting a second passport, a Plan B residency. The team, very cheap, very affordable for people that are looking to take their sovereignty to the next level. You can find out more about their services. When you first log in to their website as well, they have got a free 3-minute quiz to allow you to check if you are doing your cybersecurity, your setup correctly. I urge everyone to jump onto the bitcoinway.com. I have put a link into the description for everyone. Could not recommend them enough. I've used them personally before I ever partnered with them for the channel, friends and family. They asked me to help them out. I'm like, go to the world experts. That is the Bitcoin way. So reach out to the Bitcoin way today.
Yeah, interesting. When you said cannibalism, that's sort of what popped into my mind, which like I'd love people that are watching this far into the video to let us know in the comment section, like, what are your thoughts in regards to it? But like, if they're literally saying like this is the body of Jesus, and you're eating another human god, it seems odd. Where I think I'd agree with Protestants, where it's symbolic. And when I was talking to Brian this morning, I just had this thought pop to me one day. I was in nature, like everything is everything. Like if we're perceiving something, like we're creating it in its own mind, which means like anything that we're aware of, we're creating, which means like we're part of it. So we're part of that everything. And like everything is everything. It's connected. I'm really interested to see what the comments say about it. Do you think it's cannibalism, or what are your thoughts on it?
I don't think it's cannibalism, but I do think it is literally the blood and body of Christ. And the way that this might help you conceptualize it, there's all sorts of things that you do in a day. Right now, you are using a microphone. You're using a computer to talk to me across thousands and thousands of miles. Well, you could certainly make the argument that your microphone there is the intelligence and expertise and manpower of thousands upon thousands of people, and all the technology and the mining that went in to get the wires and the smelting of the metal and the transportation and on, and the foam and all of that. You are using those thousands of people and their time and their energy that's now has taken the form of this mic. If you were to undo that mic and then trace each thread that goes back in time and all the way back to this little boy who had a mom and her parent, all the way back, like it's mind-numbing. So you are using all of those things and all of that love and affection and anger and hate, every single thing that went into the creation and came together somehow and made this mic, and you're using that. But are you actually doing that? Like, is the little boy in there, and is the mother and then the transportation, the guy's leather belt that he tightened when he was driving the truck, and the tape of the UPS, like, is that all in there? Well, yes, but also no. It's not literally in there, but it also literally is in there in a strange way. It wouldn't be there in front of you right now if it wasn't for all of those things taking place. You cannot undo that and still have that mic. Not one piece of it. And there it is. Here it is. It's proof. I'm using it. It's proof. Like, I don't know all of the things that went into it, but I can use my imagination, and it gets really crazy really fast. It's like the thought experiment with the pencil, and how, like, okay, you just look at a pencil, it's like, oh, it just gets made in a factory. Well, how'd the factory get there? How'd all the people build the factory? And people talk about the electric vehicles, and look, oh, I mean, this is Bitcoin or all that 101 stuff here about the electric vehicles and how does it get charged, and okay, how is that any better than the gas powered cars? These are all arguments. So do I think it's literally the blood and body of Christ? Yeah, I do. And I think that at the very least, when the priest holds up that piece of bread, and I don't know exactly what the process is, but I believe, I think what's happening is he's calling Christ to embody that bread. You cannot watch that and say that literally nothing is happening. It's impossible, because at the very least, it's a man holding up a piece of bread and saying some words. So at the very least, that's happening. Now, what that means to the individual is going to vary. Some people, some skeptics will be like, it's just a guy holding up a piece of bread. Okay. And for that person, maybe that's all it is. But for the Catholic that sees that, it's a whole lot more than that. And where you're standing and whose shoes you're in at a particular time changes everything. And that's a big deal, and not to be taken lightly.
That's awesome. That is a really cool explanation. I liked that. But before we dive into politics and then round it out with money, is there anything on, man, I want to hit all three of them. I think they're fascinating, and I'm really approaching it from a place of curiosity. Like I'm going to go through the Holy Bible again, and then I'll go through the Quran, and then I'll go through
the Catholic Holy Bible, because if you're going through a Protestant one, it's missing 7 books.
Yeah, I dare say it will be. How do I know the difference? It starts with the Genesis book. Do I need to just go through
look in the Old Testament, and if it doesn't have books like First and Second Maccabees, Baruch, if it doesn't have those, then it's a Protestant Bible.
Looks like it might be a Protestant Bible. There's no Baruch.
Most likely is.
Well, there we go. Oh, well, this one's a little bit shorter and it's a big book. So I'll start there and then I'll get onto the Quran, and then I'll do some other religious texts, and then I might follow up with the other 2 books. But is there anything else that would be interesting or you think's interesting in regards to religion before we move into politics?
Yeah, I think there's a very easy parallel to make with it in Bitcoin to kind of bring things back. We've barely mentioned that whole thing, which your channel is apparently supposed to be a main thing. And I was talking about my wife.
Everything touches Bitcoin. Like everything touches money. So we can talk about anything.
So it's funny that you mentioned earlier that you're not religious, but you're spiritual. And I was talking to my wife about that exact thing. And I was saying people that are that way, because we were kind of that way for a part of our lives. It's kind of like the people that are diversified in all these things. Like, well, I've got a little of this and I've got a little of that, and I've got this thing over here because I don't know which one's going to pop off. Maybe it'll be this. Maybe it'll be GameStop. Maybe it'll be Ethereum. Maybe it'll be whatever. Pick your security, your Cardano, your token. Maybe it'll be these Pokemon JPEGs or monkey, whatever. Maybe it'll be one of them. Yeah, maybe it'll be none of them. As opposed to doing the time, doing the due diligence, and looking into something. And as much as you or I, somebody that's fully dyed-in orange Bitcoiner, would say we don't think that really any investment outside of Bitcoin is wise, I can certainly see the argument for things like real estate. I understand why somebody would be into real estate, and I can understand why it might be hard to get out of that, or why they're into these stocks or these different things. Like, I don't think that to say that somebody being in those things is completely wrong. But I do think that Bitcoin is hands down the best. And if you take the time to do that, the research, and then you go all in on Bitcoin, as so many people have, I think it's very similar to religion. Whereas so you'll be looking at all these different religions, like, oh, I'm dabbling in this one, I've got a Buddha, and then I've got a rosary over here, and I've got the Quran, I've got these Bibles, I've got this, I don't know, Tibetan book of living and dying, I've got a stack of tarot cards that I rifle through every once in a while. I've got the full gamut of stuff. Okay, what are you doing? Like, is it just fun? Is it like, did you go to the Etsy and just hit random a few times and buy some stuff? Is it because if that's what it is, cool. But are these things really helping you become the best possible version of yourself that you can? Because if you think that by going a la carte with the religions of the world because you like this little thing and you like that little thing, it's very different than going, look, I'm going to look at the tradition of this thing or that thing, whatever it is, and I want to buy in fully to this thing, which is kind of where I'm at with Catholicism right now. That is maybe the largest thing pushing me towards it. Is I look at what Catholicism has done for the entirety of the world, and I go, boy, that's a pretty good track record there. Yes, there's some dark spots, undoubtedly, but anything that's been around for more than 2,000 years old is going to have some dark spots. But I look at the cathedrals, I look at Tolkien, I look at the music and go, nothing else even comes close. And I could go more into that, but there's a reason why India and Muslim countries and the Mayans and the Chinese do not have the same level of science and have not done the same things that what Catholics have done. There's a very clear reason for that.
Interesting. I think maybe for like a little bit of clarity from my end, like when I say spiritual, not choosing like a handful of different things, like a mix and a match, the best of it. When I say spiritual, like I very clearly believe in God, but for me, I label God as the acronym, the great outdoors, the creator, infinite intelligence. Not a guy in the sky. I don't think there's a literal man. I definitely believe Jesus is a real person, Moses, Muhammad, like I believe all these people were real. And I think they had a connection with God, with the great outdoors, with like that wider thing. And then I guess for myself, like I want to have a direct communion with God and be in line with light, which is enlightenment, like waking up, seeing the sun directly in my eyes, and like really tuning into what nature has to offer. And I think that's how we grow. I think we're spiritual beings having like a meat space experience. But I think just like labeling spirituality in general and like this broad concepts thing, it's the same as like when people, I guess, say like Catholicism's bad, like they're just picking things, not sort of the true intention behind it. But it's you fire off some interesting thoughts. That's for sure. I grew up, like I went to a Christian school, Sunday school and stuff like that, a couple of bad experiences. And it's just something that I pushed away for so long. And then I have studied, and I think, like I was saying earlier, the Holy Bible, the Quran and stuff, they all teach truthful things, and they wrap it around with stories, or maybe they're the direct words of God, but or of Jesus, of these people. But I believe people like Jesus and Muhammad, Moses, Luke, John, Matthew, etc., they were just very, very aware. They're enlightened as the Buddha was. But I guess that's what makes it so interesting, is we can I guess that's what makes it interesting as Bitcoiners. We can talk about and not get too hurt or like fire up, and call holy war on each other.
Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin's been out for less than 2 decades, and there's, 5,000 podcasts talking about it. And religion in its entirety has been around for human existence. So it's an inexhaustible topic to talk about. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right. So religion, I'm sure has stirred a few people up. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just here to learn, to be curious, to ask questions, and I urge you to do the same. But feel free to correct me in the comments. It's absolutely no drama. So you obviously live in the States, Del.
Yeah.
And it looks like tomorrow at time of recording, Trump's going to come out with an announcement about strategic Bitcoin reserve, or more than likely a strategic shitcoin stockpile. It's not a religion, but even like the biggest shitcoiners in the world, like Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, say when it comes to a strategic reserve, it should be Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is money. Everything else, investment at best, gamble at worst, or a whole lot more nefarious, or just manipulate and not sound money. Mm-hmm. But like that'll be interesting. I want to hear your thoughts. But before that, like the politicians in the world, you talked about Javier Milei with the Libra token. Also, Trump came out with the Trump token the day before he got inaugurated. His wife
Melania
came
too.
out. Yeah, Melania token. What was that, the day of the inauguration?
That sounds right, yeah.
Like that sounds like manipulation at the highest order. And I don't know how that helps anyone. Like, what do you think's going on? Why are they doing this? Is it just like what you're saying earlier, greed?
It's human greed. I think that's what it boils down to. I don't think that there's any other reason to do something like that than to make money. I don't think that anybody, aside from that absolute insane, maybe the best super villain that we have of our time, Sam Altman. God, oh my goodness, that guy. I real quick side thought here. I never thought that I could like Mark Zuckerberg when I saw him like sipping water and just looking like a lizard man in front of Congress and all that. But boy, he's turned a corner. I guess hanging out with Dana White and Joe Rogan
For
for
sure.
a year and doing jujitsu really changes a guy. And so he's
Yeah.
pretty cool now. I mean, comparatively for sure.
Yeah.
But
without knowing him, like his
Yeah.
appearance, he's changed dramatically.
yeah,
He's got an
and I don't
amazing
know how
PR.
Sam Altman could pull the same thing off. Even remotely, that guy gives me the heebie-jeebies like no one I've ever seen before. But I don't know how anybody could claim, and there's a reason I even brought Sam Altman up, because he had this little, seems like people forgot about his whole eyeball thing and scanning people in poor countries, third world countries, going around and zapping eyeballs to get retinal information. What? I don't know how anybody could claim that the Trump coin is made to help anyone other than himself and anybody else that was in on the game. Like I truly feel bad for the people that bought into that, thinking this is going to be the next. I don't know. This is going to replace the dollar or something. I got to get in right now because this is going to be the new reserve currency. This is going to be. We won't be having pennies and quarters and dollar bills and $5 bills in the U.S. anymore. We're going to use Trump coin. Anybody that thought that, I don't know that it was sold as that. I hope, goodness gracious, I hope not. But anybody that thought that was, a sucker at best. And I released a news video for the channel I make news videos for, Mining Disrupt, right when that came out, saying, get ready for 4 years of this. It's not going to go away. I don't think that when Bitcoin say, oh, we're going to win and nothing's gonna like, it's just going to win. I think that that's true as much as it's not true. I think that at least the way I heard that before was that Bitcoin's going to win. I hear that the race is done and that's it. It's all the others lost. Bitcoin is crowned the champion and we move on. All the others go away. They atrophy. They die off like old unused muscles. And there we go. Bitcoin is the only thing left. And we ride off into the golden sunset, the orange golden sunset that is literally Bitcoin only. I don't see that happening. I do not see that happening at all. I think what is true is that Bitcoin will win and keep winning and keep winning and keep winning. And it might have some downsides compared to other things. And you might see something pop up and just go crazy, like whatever, Libra, and then it dies. But Bitcoin's just going to be that tortoise, and the race will never stop. There's going to be something else. There will be some new scam. There will be some new wizard, this token, taproot nonsense. It's just, people will find new ways to come up with new grifts and new scams, just as there were snake oil salesmen back in the old West days saying, oh, look, little Timmy here, who I've never met before in my life. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. He's got a broken leg and just 2 drops of this beaver snot. And there we go. Look at, he's jumping and dancing. And it's like, wow, now it's something else. It's always going to be some nonsense. And as long as you get some charlatan that's a good speaker and can spin a good yarn, he'll sell you crap. And there's suckers out there that'll buy crap because they want to believe. And you could go, well, Del, you're that sucker because the Catholic Church got you hook, line, and sinker. Well, maybe so. I don't know. But I'm not a Catholic. I'm looking at it. I didn't mean to bring it around to that. That wasn't intentional. But I think that Bitcoin will keep on winning and other things will keep on being distractions. And I don't think that's going to go away ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah, like if we look at the history of the world or recorded history, there's always been a fight between good and bad or good and evil, right and wrong. And
yeah,
it's sort of like a spiral. We go around and it looks similar, but it's just either ratcheted up or down a notch each time round. It's absolutely fascinating. But I agree with that wholeheartedly, Del. I think Bitcoin will win. It'll keep on winning. But the battle, maybe the battle's been won, but there's still many more to go. And the end of the war is still very, very far away. I guess I just hope to see people I just don't want people to lose. Like, life is hard enough. Like, they're printing money. There's like the world M2 money supply chart floating around on X today. It's been printed like 12.7%. Maybe I'm off by a couple of percent or whatever, but it's above 10%. Like, people are losing 10% worldwide of their value every year, year in, year out, at the minimum. Like, that's just the money. And like, it's truly hard. People are working like bullshit jobs that they don't enjoy. They're caught in the 9-to-5 save system, media, the propaganda, the food. There's so much poison and food and cosmetics and medication and everything like that. Like, life's hard enough, and then like, people are desperate and they want to escape. Like, we all want to escape the matrix. And they're like, oh, Trumpcoin, maybe I'll catch a pump, maybe I'll buy it low and sell it high. And for the majority of people, it doesn't happen. I don't want to see, I don't want to see people in pain. Like, I've had a lot of fucking pain in my life, and it made me who I am today. But it's shit and it's painful. And if there wasn't like these scamming pricks out there, or people are a little bit more informed, so they wouldn't need to go through as much pain. Like, if you're aware of how distorted and deceptive and how much of a cesspit altcoins are, and you go into there with consciousness, well, I think you're like lacking integrity. But however, if you're like, all right, like, I'm going to use it to make money and then I'm going to start a charity or whatever it is, like that, you go in there with intention, you're not a cesspit. That's all right. Like, you're pre-warned, but it's the people that are just going in because they want something better, and everyone deserves something better. And then you've got all these snakes, like you're saying, snake oil salesmen out there misleading people. And I truly think that's the devil's work at play on that. All right, so strategic Bitcoin reserve or the shitcoin reserve, it's looking like the latter, and like, it'll be what it'll be. Politicians won't save us. Bitcoin and self-custody will. But like, what are your thoughts on what's going on? And do you have like any guesses? It's going to be old news by the time this video comes out, but what could potentially play out tomorrow?
I get, well, it's well, for me.
Oh, no, sorry, it'll be 2 days.
2 days.
Yeah, we're a day ahead.
Whatever. I don't know when you're planning to release this, but I guess I'll make a ahead of time prediction. So there was, I'm no body language expert, but you certainly don't need to be a body language expert to look at a recent Saylor interview. I think he was on Fox News, and he looked like a giddy schoolboy that knows for a fact because he found the present. He's getting the PS6 this Christmas, and he's happy as can be. So, do I think that some announcement's going to come down the line? Yeah, I do. And given what Trump said about the strategic stockpile with Howard Lutnick and Bessnet there flanking him about that, saying that they do want to help the American people, I do think that that's true on some level. But I think that what is unsaid is him going, I'm the head of the American people, so I want to benefit myself the most and my buddies the most. So I do want to help the American people, but don't forget, I'm the leader of the American people. So I'm helping me, number one. And so when you see his son stay by the dips and now hold, I don't know for a fact that his son knows inside information, but I think it would be
that's a pretty good guess
to think that there's no chance that he has some inside information. Yeah. So what I think, just total guess, pulling this out of my gut, what I think will happen is that there will be some sort of pie that is announced. And I think the reason for doing that and the reason, the way that they're going to sell it, and I think it's smart. As much as I don't like all these other coins, and I think that Bitcoin is the only one. I agree with Brian Armstrong. I believe I'm right there and believe that the only thing that belongs in such a thing is Bitcoin. The problem with that is that it goes back to what you were just saying, not wanting those people to get burned. And there are people that have invested a ton of money because they watched their favorite podcast or their favorite YouTuber and said, this other coin, Ethereum, so whatever, is the one. And they watched things and they confirmed their bias over the past X years. And they are so deep into that. If the stockpile went solely to Bitcoin, those people would be destroyed. Absolutely destroyed. Because those things if an announcement is this, it's Bitcoin and it's Bitcoin only, and we're not touching those other ones, they would crater, absolutely crater. And you would have a collective wail sounding from every corner of this country and the globe that would deafen the planet. It would be absolutely astronomically catastrophic, the downstream effect of that. So I think they take the smarter approach and they go, look, we're going to put all of these in here and let those, here's the unspoken part, let those things die out on their own as they were meant to do anyways, because the only one that's finite, the only one that has a guaranteed cap is Bitcoin. And so that one's just going to keep on going up. So it's on you, the individual, to bail ship when it's best for you. And we can't say, but we're just not going to sink it right now, today, with a nuke. It's got a hole in it. And if you're not completely, utterly, willfully stupid, you will start to pick up on that. You'll look at the charts and be like, boy, the separation just keeps on getting more and more extreme. I'm noticing a trajectory. Maybe I should dump this and put it into Bitcoin. And yes, that will cause it to dump and the price will go down on all these other things, but at least it won't be shot old Yeller style behind the shed, day one, end of the story. And everybody's like, I had X $1 million and now I have 2 peanuts. We're done. I'm screwed. Like the economy could not handle that. It would be depression on an unimaginable scale.
Dal, I really like that. I also agree 100% should be Bitcoin only, and whatever any nation state does, it really doesn't matter. But like, again, I go back, I don't want to see people in pain. I don't want to see people hurt. If that allows it, they're probably still going to get hurt, but it won't collectively be ripping the Band-Aid off everyone all at once. Maybe there is a little bit of good in there. And even if there's not, what you just said, I'm just going to hold that as a belief. If it makes people a little bit better for a little bit longer to be able to read the books so they don't need to eat the bugs, so be it. That's it's very grounded. It's a very mature way to be able to approach it.
I know that there's toxic Bitcoin maximalists and they're fully toxic. Like, no, let those people burn. Really? Like, let's say that your brother, and you're like, oh, I hate my brother. Okay, well, let's not talk about you and your brother. What about the guy that does care about his brother? And he goes, look, I've tried talking to him, but he follows, I don't know, Dog with Hat, the Minecraft streamer, and he's constantly talking about this, and it's all built on Ethereum, Cardano sidechain link up, or I don't even know. I don't know the language to talk that nonsense, but it's something there. And he put 10,000 into it, and he's looking at 150,000 right now. He's pretty good. Well, if Trump says nope, we're not doing anything with all that, his brother's screwed. Yeah. And I don't think the Bitcoin maximalists would be like, yeah, screw you, brother. Like, I tried to warn you, but oh my God, this is awful. I feel so bad for you. Like, anybody that has a shred of sympathy is going to feel that.
Yeah. No, I love that. So, like, we've dived into religion, we've dived into politics. I'm sure we've created a bit of a conversation, pissed a couple of people off. So we need to touch on the third thing, which is money. To start off the conversation, do you have any unpopular opinions in regards to Bitcoin that might stir one or two listeners up?
I guess so. Well, I don't know. I'm honest about this. This is a thing I've said a bunch. I'll say it again here. It's that I know, as much as I know that I'm a guy and the sun is hot and a bad place to build a house, that our current monetary system is completely screwed. That I'm utterly convinced of. And I don't know that Bitcoin is the answer. I do know that it's the best answer that we have right now, but I don't know that it's the only answer. And I don't know that something else better won't come along. Like, if somebody says, no, it's not possible for anything else better to come along ever, like, All right, really? You know what AI is going to be doing 15 years down the road from now? You know what it's going to be doing 50 years from now? Like, Bitcoin seems really good. Like, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't recommend anybody invest in anything other than Bitcoin. But for me to say that's it, game over, humanity's set, that nothing else ever matters, we don't even need to even look at anything ever again, Max Kaiser style. That seems to be taking hubris to a level that I'm not willing to do.
Yeah. We can never know what we don't know, and the future's a story that's untold.
Yeah,
I think that's common sense. I'd agree with that. I do believe maybe like a little bit more nuanced, like Bitcoin's the best answer now that we have. And I think over time it'll keep getting refined because of the history and the time, the energy, the infrastructure that's built. It's like the banking system, for example. It was, started out with shells and blah, 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 ledger and stuff. But at one stage, they're just like writing it on a piece of paper on the ledger, and then they needed to digitize the ledger, and then they digitized like the payment rails and stuff. So they like kept building on top of already broken technology. I think Bitcoin started off as being very sufficient technology and very purpose-built technology for a monetary system. But we don't have everything that we need in perpetuity. Like, we can't just do nothing to Bitcoin. Like, maybe we leave the base chain as we can, but then quantum computers come here. So then what happens? I've got a podcast with Preston Pish out tomorrow. It's already out. Preston Pish, check that out. We dive really into the quantum computer threat. But I think my opinion is they'll keep refining it over and over again. But still, 100 years' time, is it still going to be Bitcoin, or is there going to be some other type of technology? Or do we just move to a place where we're not using money at all and we're trading our time? And just taking the money component out of it, because it's what money's a representation of, in my opinion. Who knows? That's
like that Justin Timberlake movie where they literally trade time, and the people that are super rich have thousands and thousands of years or whatever, and when your time runs out, you die. But as long as you still have time, like, yeah, maybe if we can figure out a way to hack time itself and do that, then we'll move beyond Bitcoin. But I agree that if you think of Bitcoin as like the wheel, and you go, look, we attached people to a wheel and wagons, and then horses and oxen, and now we've got Teslas and supercars, then, and you look at the wheel like Bitcoin, then yeah, I agree that it will keep on getting refined, and you'll attach different engines and different chassis to that wheel, and it'll look very different from the caveman wheel to the Bugatti wheel.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So we've touched on a couple of like deep things. Let's totally turn the page, new book, new chapter, whatever it is. What are some of the things that like really get you fired up and ready to go about Bitcoin? Like, do you have a spring in your step every day you wake up because you're in the Bitcoin space? What is it about Bitcoin that keeps you here talking about it, having a YouTube channel, the projects that you're working on that is not to be talked about? That's Bitcoin related. It's obviously giving you a bit of purpose and a bit of drive, even to show up here and have this conversation and talk about religion and politics and Bitcoin and tie it all back into Bitcoin. Like, what is it about Bitcoin that's amazing, incredible, fantastic for you?
That money connects to basically everything, because money is a tradable form of time. And if you can show me something that time doesn't touch, I guess I'll vanish into smoke, because I'll have learned something that seems impossible to have learned. Time is like the base layer of existence, and that's what we transact with. And Bitcoin is the best representation of that we've come across thus far, and it touches literally everything that we do. Everything. You won't find a person that doesn't utilize money in some form or fashion anywhere in the world. And whether that's, and you might go, well, these people don't use currency. I'm not talking about currency. I'm talking about money, the most abstract form of that word, the biggest umbrella that you can imagine. People are trading time, barter, whatever. It's every culture, everywhere. So I think that Bitcoin being the most interesting version of money means that this thing that's supremely interesting connecting to everything is somehow even more interesting. So that's what keeps me interested in Bitcoin. And it's made me, I'm working on a project related to Bitcoin. And I wouldn't have been doing that if it wasn't for, I would have been doing something else, maybe similar, but it's because of Bitcoin, and I intend to share it with Bitcoiners later this year. And it's constantly something new is happening, and that's really cool.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's like the only thing in my life that's kept my attention, but every single day there's like a new aspect. Like I was saying, I did the news 5 days a week, every week last year. And like absolutely fascinating. It was incredible. I learned a lot, and you can see the cycles and what was happening on a moment-to-moment basis. And then to like switch and then go like deeper into the conversations and the podcast. I've never really spoken to anyone today or asked the questions that I have about religion. And it's only through Bitcoin that I'm asking these questions. It's only through Bitcoin that a mate sent me the Holy Bible. Like, it's only through Bitcoin and on X, where maybe yourself, but like looking at different religions and which one is the best, and going into it. And maybe if I wasn't into Bitcoin, these conversations would have come up in another way, but maybe not, because the fiat system keeps you so fucking busy, so distracted, so like caught in the hamster wheel, so unable to think. I think that's the greatest thing about Bitcoin. It's given me the capacity to be able to think back. It's given me time. It's amazing, like choice. And it's not even due to the number go up side of things. Like, yes, that helps, but it's just, you don't need to worry about it. Like, once you learn how to protect it, do everything right, and you put in that initial time, and then you secure it, no government entity, individual is going to be able to get in the way. They can't debase it if it's done properly, like for your own Bitcoin. And then you can just continue to provide value in the real world, receive money, fiat back, save it in the world's best money, and you can go on. But you don't need to think like, oh, do I need to go out and buy like a second or third or fourth Airbnb rental property? Or do I go residential? Or do I go commercial? Do I go stock? Do I go altcoins? Or do I, like, I don't even think about it. I don't need to think about it, because I just save my money. I don't even invest. And that frees up a lot of bandwidth. You, once a week on Mining Disrupt channel, you put out a video, Del. Where else can people find you? Obviously X, I will link that below, but where would you like us to send everyone?
Those would be the two main spots. If you want to see what I'm doing on X, it's just my name, Delio Pera. I have a unique name, so I've had that pretty much anywhere I go. The Mining Disrupt channel is, like you said, the weekly news thing, a couple of shorts that I put out. And then if you want to see stories, currently I've got a bunch of Warhammer related stories on my other channel, the Para9. It's my last name, P-E-R-A, and then the number, like spelled out, N-I-N-E, on YouTube. And so if you want to listen to some stories while you're driving around, then cool. I'm going to be narrating Dante's Divine Comedy here soon. So I'm going to be doing that in 3 parts, the Inferno, Purgatorio, and Paradise. And so if you've never heard that and you want to hear somebody narrate it, there you go.
I've read it, and I'll just turn the alarm off. But that's awesome. I will listen to that 3-part series when that comes out. If you can send me the link, and I will put it in the description for you. But for everyone out there, it's like, I'd like to know, I haven't done a video like this before. We are all told to stay away from religion, politics, and money. And I think that's absolute bullshit. And because of that rhetoric, I've stayed away from it. I haven't been willing to open up that conversation. I want to discuss it more and more, because I absolutely know nothing. Was it good? Was it interesting or totally not interested? Let us know. But most importantly, please do something nice for yourself today. For somebody else out there, be blessed. Peace.